SABC News reporter Chriselda Lewis has breaking news for us relating to Advocate Malesela Teffo opening cases against Kelly Khumalo's lawyer, Magdalene Moonsamy, and EFF leader, Julius Malema. Chriselda, a good morning to you. Thank you so much for joining us. So what exactly is the latest here?
I tell you, every time we head towards the case resuming, there's always some sort of bombshell. You would know that on Monday, which will be the 5th of September, the murder trial of Senzo Meyiwa resumes in the High Court in Pretoria. So what we've now learned is that Advocate Malesela Teffo, who you'd recall, had removed himself from this particular trial, stating that he did not feel respected by the court in Pretoria. He has now opened cases of defamation of character and criminal injury against Magdalene Moonsamy, who is Kelly Khumalo's lawyer, as well as EFF leader Julius Malema. You would recall that Magdalene Moonsamy, who at some point had spoken to the media after Advocate Malesela Teffo, when he was still on the case, indicated that he was planning to bring a witness who was going to testify that Kelly Khumalo had mistakenly killed Senzo Meyiwa. That's where we saw the relationship basically go down south. And we then did an interview as the media with Magdalene Moonsamy, and she basically said she was waiting for the day for Advocate Malesela Teffo to bring this so-called witness. And there basically been allegations against each other of alleged intimidation taking place. Gauteng police have confirmed indeed that the case against Moonsamy has been opened at the Brixton police station, which is just up the road here from the SABC. And also another case has been opened against EFF leader Julius Malema. You would recall that the EFF leader in a press conference had described Advocate Malesela Teffo as disrespectful, as making the Senzo Meyiwa murder trial about himself, and basically spoke about Advocate Malesela's decorum inside the courtroom. So he's now opened this case, these two cases against the EFF leader Julius Malema, as well as Kelly Khumalo's lawyer Magdalene Moonsamy. Police are confirming that. This on the backdrop, Naledi, of on Monday, you would recall that after Advocate Malesela Teffo had basically recused himself from this case, he said he was leaving. Then the instructing attorney for accused 1 to 4, which Advocate Malesela Teffo was representing, is taking over the case. He will then start with this case on Monday. We don't know how it is going to pan out, because also there's a directive from the National Director of Public Prosecutions, or the National Prosecuting Authority, which was signed on the 22nd of August, a couple of weeks back. Remember, there had been a bone of contention around these two dockets in the Senzo Meyiwa murder trial. So docket 375 is the docket that is believed to implicate those that were inside the house at the time that Senzo Meyiwa was killed. So the NPA is basically saying now, or the Director of Public Prosecutions is basically saying they've transferred the issue of this docket from here in Johannesburg to Pretoria, and that they're not going to make a decision on this docket 375, which implicates those in the house, until the current trial, which is before the High Court in Pretoria, has been concluded. So we're really expecting this to be a major bone of contention on Monday, when the instructing attorney for accused 1 to 4, Timothy Tobane, takes over this particular case. We're expecting him to challenge it, but there have just been curveballs every time. But it's clear now that these two cases have now been opened. Please confirm this morning.
I think what's interesting is that we're obviously seeing the timeline starting to stretch here, right? As to when the Meyiwa family is going to be getting the answers. But any idea of what Malesela Teffo's actions now essentially are going to mean for the case itself? Do they mean further extensions, or do things proceed for that first docket as we expected?
It's going to be very difficult to ascertain what might happen on Monday, Naledi. Every time we say we're going to court, this is what is expected. We're also expecting, remember, the continuing cross-examination of the state's first witness, Thabo Mosia, by Advocate Zandile Mshololo, who represents accused number 5. Whether that is going to happen on the basis of what I am expecting to be a massive bone of contention regarding this decision to make a decision, if I may, on the second docket, only after this case has been concluded, is something that Advocate, Timothy Tobane, who is the instructing attorney for accused number 1 to 4, who's now taken over from Advocate Malesela Teffo. That's going to be a massive bone of contention and might even create further delays inside the courtroom, and possibility that might even delay this cross-examination of Thabo Mosia, which has already been delayed several times due to a number of these instances that have been taking place in between. So how this is going to pan out on Monday certainly remains to be seen. But I know that Advocate Malesela Teffo, it's been confirmed as well, that he had a meeting, I understand, last week with some of the family members of the accused, and it seemed that he wanted to be put back on the case, but I think that has been denied, according to our understanding. So as it stands, he is not part of the matter. The instructing attorney for accused 1 to 4 is part of the matter. He's expected to be inside court on Monday, and how the case really resumes is something that remains to be seen. But we also spoke to the EFF spokesperson, Sinawo Tambo, and he's agreed to speak to us here on the show in just a couple of moments. I'm sure your producers here on the show will certainly get in touch with him shortly.
Yeah, that was going to be my next question, is I know that you've been working so hard on this story, keeping a close eye on every detail of it. So I imagine that by now we still haven't heard yet from Magdalene Moonsamy and the EFF still preparing what their approach is going to be.
I'm afraid I cannot say. I did have a conversation with Magdalene Moonsamy, but I think because the matter is now, there's a case that has been opened, one would imagine that it will be very difficult for her to speak on a matter which would presumably go to court. And I'm afraid at this particular point, the things that she did say to me were off the record. And journalistically, I think I'll be able to share it once she gives us the go-ahead to do so. But we are expecting to hear from the EFF in just a couple of moments. They have agreed that they will respond to this, because we did indicate to them that Gauteng police have indeed confirmed the case number that we gave to them of the case that has been opened against the EFF leader, Julius Malema.
You know, with all these activities happening around and in the case, in the court case itself as it unfolds, I think it's easy for us to lose sight of the fact that at the center of this is the Meyiwa family waiting for justice. And one can only imagine what they are going through, and you've been keeping in touch with them throughout the trial. I mean, how have they been dealing with the up and downs, and how do you think they're going to respond to this news?
It's going to be an absolute nightmare. It has been a nightmare for this family who lost their loved one in 2014. And, you know, recall that Zama Meyiwa, as well as one of the other relatives, have consistently been inside court. But due to a number of delays and how the case has panned out, they've stopped traveling from Durban to Pretoria in order to hear the case. They've been watching it via the SABC's YouTube channel, because we do stream it live every time we get to court. And they've been keeping up with proceedings there, but they're extremely perturbed by what is taking place. And it certainly seems for them that justice is looking much more further away to trying to get to the bottom of exactly what happened on that night when Senzo Meyiwa was killed, due to a number of these twists and turns in this particular matter.
And the public interest is palpable.
It's unbelievable, because I think we're talking about someone here who'd reached you know, a very high level of his career, was loved by many. In fact, if it was not this past weekend, if my memory serves me well, it was the previous weekend, you had some Orlando Pirates supporters that had gone to the Meyiwa home and had basically said, we've not lost you, we've not abandoned you, we're still here, and we're also still calling for justice for Senzo Meyiwa. And I think that is a sentiment that is being shared by many South Africans, but it's looking much more further away. Every time the case is about to resume or the matter goes to court, there is some twist and turn inside that courtroom in Pretoria. So it remains to be seen on Monday how this is going to pan out, but I'm not expecting it to be easy.
Well, we trust that you will keep us updated, as you always have done. Chriselda, thank you so much for bringing us the latest, our very own SABC reporter there, Chriselda Lewis, essentially giving us the latest coming out of that Senzo Meyiwa story, the latest being that breaking story, Advocate Malesela Teffo opening cases or charges rather of criminal injury and defamation against Kelly Khumalo's lawyer, Magdalene Moonsamy, as well as EFF leader Julius Malema.